What's up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Imbraxis. Today, I just want to talk a little bit about recording software. This is for ytgamers.com. If you haven't joined our community, you should. We're giving a lot of good tips, especially if you record videos. Now, I want to talk just a little bit about recording software because, without a doubt, Fraps is the #1 gaming recording software. That's the one that everyone goes to record their games if they're a PC gamer. Now, I know you HD PVR guys got your own thing going on. That's cool. But this is going to kind of be for PC gamers, and I will be addressing some things for you HD PVR guys. Now, you guys know the deal with Fraps. Fraps is basically a program that it doesn't necessarily record the video or record the actual gameplay experience. What it does is it takes thousands of screenshots a second and then compiles them into a 30-second clip for a video, right? That's basically how Fraps functions. It doesn't pull it directly off the graphics card. It's basically taking a massive number of screenshots, which is incredibly difficult on your CPU, your RAM, and your hard drive. I'm going to show you a clip here in a second, but what I want you to keep in mind is that during this clip, I was averaging 115 frames a second before I started recording. As soon as I hit the record button, it's set up to lock in at 60 frames a second. It's not supposed to drop below that. However, I dropped from 115 frames a second down to 40 and then back up to 60. And it held pretty steady, but it did fluctuate between 60 and 55, which my computer's pretty beastly. It shouldn't do that. I have an 8-core system. So Fraps is pretty hard on your computer. And, after you guys watch this clip, I want to talk about the file size. But basically, if like you're an FPS guy or something like that, frame rates are a huge part of your gameplay. And if anyone out there is like me, I can't afford a frame rate drop if I'm already running the latest and greatest titles on ultra graphics. I'm just one of those people. I have to record in ultra or nothing at all. Like, I hate recording on minimal settings. So during that clip that you just saw, it was recorded by Fraps. It's 20 seconds long, shot at 1360 by 768. Now, that's just my normal resolution. Yes, I know you're watching this at 720p, but you're not. You're actually watching it in 1360 by 768. It's just been boxed for 720p. But anyhow, it's a 20-second long clip, and it's 1.08 gigabytes large. That's a pretty big file. That means about every minute and a half, I'll be clocking 5 to 6 gigabytes. Now, I do have a terabyte drive that I'm recording onto, but I could fill it up really quickly. 2 or 3 games in a row, and you've got a terabyte drive full of footage, but it's only a couple of games. Now, I want to show you the clip that I did with Dxtory. When I recorded with Dxtory, again, I started about 114 to 115 frames a second. When I record with Dxtory, it locks it in at 30 frames a second. I only record at 30 unless I'm going to do slow motion footage. That's basically, you never really need 60 frames a second because YouTube doesn't output higher than 30. But I dropped from 115 down to 110, but I'm recording at 30 frames a second. So it's a lot less intensive on your computer because it's actually pulling everything off of your graphics card and not just taking screenshots continuously. So for an example, say that I get 115 frames a second, it's pulling out whatever frames it needs to make the video itself. I don't know how to explain it. It was explained somewhere for me, but just trust me, it's a lot less hard on your computer. I'm going to explain why. Now, you can see the file here, same file, it's 1 second shorter, shot in the same resolution. However, it's only 411 megabytes, which is less than half the size of the first video shot by Fraps, which is hugely important if you're going to be recording any kind of long videos. So you already know what Fraps does. Everyone knows what Fraps does, so we're going to close that down. I want to talk about Dxtory here. Dxtory is freaking sweet. There's so many options that you can do with this thing. So first off, the one thing I want to talk about is, okay, Fraps has yellow and red numbers when you're recording and when you're not, and that tells you your frames per second. Dxtory is pretty freaking sweet in the fact it'll tell you how many frames you're getting while you're not recording. It'll tell tell you how many frames you're getting while recording, but it will still show you what kind of performance you're getting. I wish I could actually show this to you, but basically when I was recording, I started at 114 frames a second, and I was not recording at all. As soon as I started recording, it let me know you're recording at 30 frames per second in your current resolution, and your current frame rates that you're getting yourself is 110. So that's a pretty neat feature about Dxtory. One of the best features about this is its hard drive benchmarker. And this is really important for recording really high resolution video, 1080p at 60 frames a second if you need to do slow motion with 1080p. You need at least this kind of speed. You need to be over 100 megabytes a second to record 1080p at 30 frames a second. You need a solid state drive to run it at 60 frames a second, depending on what game you're playing. So just for an example, let me show you how this benchmarking works. I don't know, the benchmarking is actually just really cool, but let me just set it up like I'd be recording to the Fraps folder. Okay, so I'm just going to run a benchmark on it, and this is a solid state drive. My C drive's solid state, so it's coming in at about 180 megabytes per second, 179 megabytes per second. So I already know, whoops, we'll run it again while I'm talking. But basically, we already know what that hard drive's capable of. It's capable of 1080p at 60 frames a second. Whereas my recording hard drive, which is one terabyte solid state drive, is only capable of 129 megabytes per second. So that means I could record at 1080p at 30 frames a second. You also got all kinds of options for hotkeys. You also got different options for screen resolutions, etc. What kind of codec you're using. I'm currently using a lossless codec, which means it basically records to its fullest capacity without being an absolute raw capture. Now, for you HD PVR guys, I told you I'd be talking to you here in a minute. You could set this up ahead of time when you're recording off an HD PVR to go ahead and clip out any of the black bars. So you can go ahead and set up your video to be recorded exactly how you want it, straight off of the device. So that's there for you. I have it locked in at 30 frames a second. I don't know if you knew this, YouTube doesn't do anything over 30 frames a second. So unless you're doing a slow motion video, 60 frames a second isn't going to do you any damn good. Now, raw capture is an interesting option. You need to have a beast-ass system to run raw capture. Because basically, it's going to be recording a second version of the game. When I ran raw capture on Smite, I got about 60 frames a second performance-wise, because it was basically like running a second version of the game. The file sizes are massive. You can't, I think it's almost a gigabyte every 15 seconds. Like, it's pretty brutal, but you'll never see quality that good anywhere. Like, it's basically like someone sitting in front of your screen watching you play the game. Here's an interesting feature, is the scaling, percent versus size. So I have it scaling at percent. That's why my videos came out at the resolution they did. That's the native resolution on my monitor. However, if I wanted to, I could actually set the actual size of the video. So if I want to record at my native resolution but compact it for 720p, I can have a 720p video with 1380 resolution in it, so it looks a little bit better. That's why my videos do look the way they do. They look a little bit better than what you'd expect for a 720p video. Probably one of the best options. I'm just going to keep saying that, best options over and over again. One of the coolest options in Dxtory is you can split your audio. So I can have a different track for each type audio source. So right now it's running through my TV. So say that I'm running the game off this. This will be game sound. Then I can have a separate track for my microphone. So if I'm doing in-game audio and talking to you, and I'd screw up somewhere, I could actually cut that out completely. And then, of course, if you have friends, you could also add Skype. Now, I don't have Skype on here right now. You have to download a little codec for that. But like Ventrilo, Skype, TeamSpeak, etc., you can have your friends on another channel. So if they're being obnoxious or something like that, you can cut them out of the video and still save the video. I don't mess with any of that. One of the most important options inside of Dxtory, and this is probably why it doesn't tank your frames per second so bad, is because it has this right here, processing thread. I have an 8-core system, so I could set it up to process on all 8 cores, and when I'm recording a video, it might take 5% from each one of the cores, but it isn't going to bog down the whole system, and I have the rest of the CPU to do whatever it needs to do with. You know, if you're like running a dual core, I guess it won't really help you that much, but if you're running 4-core and up, this is hugely important because Fraps just doesn't have an option for processing threads. And then, of course, once you pay for Dxtory, you have it for life, so you'll get free updates and all that good stuff. So that's basically going to cover it for this video. I hope it helped you guys out. Maybe you guys will try out Dxtory. I've been Braxis, and I'll catch you later.